The president has said repeatedly that any talk of collusion is a hoax. And you've gone through all these documents, you've interviewed all these people. At this point, is the president right? Is this a hoax?
I'm going to let you guys quote the president and ask him questions about what he says. It's not going to be the committee. We're going through a very difficult process.
Do you have any evidence to suggest, to rule out that the president knew anything about any of these contacts that occurred between any of his associates and the Russians?
Let me go back and say, because I thought I was pretty clear, that the issue of collusion is still open, that we continue to investigate both intelligence and witnesses, and that we're not in a position where we will come to any type of temporary finding on that until we've completed the process. Casey?
You say that the issue of collusion is still open. Are you pursuing the question of whether there's a link between the ads that appeared on social media sites and the Trump campaign?
Well, let me just say that I'll let Mark address it if he'd like to. If there was any connection, that would be pertinent to our investigation of Russia's influence in the elections. We have had incredible access and cooperation by those social media companies that have been in. Some of them have been interviewed twice. At the end of the day, we'll be prepared to ask the right questions that may answer some of your questions at that open hearing.
But we also have to get the universe first. I was concerned on the front end that the first pass was not a thorough enough pass. For example, I cited the fact that one entity, that the only ads that were produced were those that were paid for in rubles. Obviously, there are various forms of payment. So I think the companies are increasingly understanding that their actions need to match their public statements, that they realize how important it is to maintain the integrity of our democratic process.
Did you call on Facebook to release those ads?
I think at the end of the day, it's important that the public sees these ads.
Yeah. Two questions. You talked about the level of cooperation that you've gotten from Obama administration officials. Can you characterize the level of cooperation and candor you've seen from Trump campaign officials and those in the Trump orbit?
I can't think of a Trump campaign official that we have asked to come in that has not come in. Is that pretty accurate? There's some individuals that may have been involved in the Trump campaign that to this point we might have limited the scope of our questions, but with the full intent of them coming back when we knew a little bit more and they pulled a few more intelligence threads.
Senators, so far, when you compare what they've said to you to the documents that you've reviewed, do you find that they've been truthful by and large?
I don't think that, I think our interviews to this point, outside of the 5 specific areas of buckets that we knew exactly what the universe of people we wanted to talk to, we knew what we were trying to find out, that we're very much in an exploratory mode trying to piece together what people did, where they were, who they talked to. In most cases, we have accessed email records, text messages, phone records voluntarily. Usually when you get something like that voluntarily, somebody's probably going to tell you the truth when they answer the questions. But the reason that we can't definitively answer some of your questions today is we will take everything that our staff has put into transcripts, and we will test that against every piece of intelligence and other interviews that we've done. To suggest that we've done that to everybody thoroughly would be misleading you. So let us go through that process. But I will assure you that if somebody has come in and not been truthful with us, we will catch them on that, and they will come back, and that will be the subject of great intensity on our part.
Senators, question for both of you. Based on the work done so far, what's your assessment of what the Russians did do in 2016, what they're doing now, and what portends for the future?
I would just say, I think there is a large consensus that they hacked into political files, released those files in an effort to influence the election. We think they actively tried to at least test the vulnerabilities of 21 states' electoral systems. And we feel that they used the social media firms both in terms of paid advertising and what I believe is more problematic, but created false accounts and others that would drive interest towards stories or groups. And generally those stories or groups were to sow chaos and drive division in our country. And I think that the pattern that they used in America, they have used in other nations around the world. And I fear sometimes if you add up all they've spent, that was a decent rate of return for them, unfortunately.
Let me add to it if I can. We can certifiably say that no vote totals were affected, that the tallies are accurate, the outcome of the election based upon the count of votes, they did not in any way, shape, or form that we've been able to find alter that. I want to reiterate something that Mark said. You can't walk away from this and believe that Russia is not currently active in trying to create chaos in our election process. I assume that the same tactics that we saw in Montenegro, in France, in Belgium, and in the United States will continue to be tested within our structure of the election process here at home.
Thank you, Senator. Pivoting off that point, you just noted that Facebook, they say 10 million people saw their ads. There was an information campaign waged against one candidate by the Russians. And of course, they probed 21 states, perhaps more, that we didn't catch. So can you definitively look at the American public, Senator Burr, and say that the election was not influenced in any way by this massive Russian operation?
Well, let me take issue with your premise of your question. Neither Mark or I said that there was a campaign targeted against one. We're looking at both campaigns.
Well, that's what the ICA has said.
The ICA did not look at collusion of the campaigns. The ICA looked at Russian, let me finish, Russian involvement in the election process. We're in agreement with that. We have not come to any determination on collusion or Russia's preferences. If we used solely the social media advertising that we have seen, there's no way that you can look at that and say that that was to help the right side of the ideological chart and not the left, or vice versa. They were indiscriminate. One of the things that's most challenging to this investigation is, with the exception of certain pieces that have already been discussed, it seems that the overall theme of the Russian involvement in the U.S. elections was to create chaos at every level. And I would tell you the fact that we're sitting here 9 months later investigating it, they have been pretty darn successful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes. I just want to get clarification on this. So far you have not been able to verify the intelligence community's assessment that Russia was weighing in on the side of Donald Trump?
We feel very confident that the ICA's accuracy is going to be supported by our committee. We're not willing to close the issue given the nature of the rest of the investigation, that we might get a thread of intelligence that suggests possibly an area of the ICA that our interpretation is different. So we're leaving it open. It's not closed. And I think any smart investigation would stay open until we've completed.
And that's, again, let me just add,
Yeah.
that's one of the things we're trying to be very careful here is, as Bridget mentioned, some of these meetings where we've talked to most folks, we also know this has to be talked through with all of the balance of the committee members. We're being, I think, extra cautious here, saying we're not reaching final conclusions until we've had those conversations with all those members.
Could there ever be a point where the meddling from Russia was so overwhelming that it could lead to negating the results of the election?
Maybe that's a theory people are working under. All I can tell you is that the votes were counted, one person won, and that's how it's going to stay.
Prior to the release of your committee's report, will there be any coordination on what the Senate Judiciary Committee has found in its own investigation?
Listen, we're focused on our investigation. Everybody has their jurisdictional lanes. My hope is that they stay within those lanes. We talk, I won't say regularly, but when we need to, with the special counsel. The special counsel is focused on criminal acts. We're not focused on criminal acts. If we find one, then they're the first phone call we make.
Senator Burr, the president is the commander-in-chief and he's charged with protecting the country, but he hasn't really spoken out on this issue other than to call it a hoax. Do you want to see him lead some kind of effort, speak out, do something tangible to protect the country from these, what you consider to be ongoing attacks from Russia?
Listen, I think the vice chairman alluded to the fact that though it was slow getting DHS to recognize this, it didn't take as long as it did for the last administration to run the clock on it. So we're not trying to look back and point to things that were done wrong. Everybody's done things wrong.
I want to talk about prospectively. Should the president now take what you're saying today, speak out against it, and lead some kind of formal effort to protect the country?
I'm not asking the president to take the briefing that we give at a press briefing about progress and assume that in any way, shape, or form fully encapsulates what our final report will say. What I will say is what the vice chairman pointed out, that the Department of Homeland Security has taken a different posture. It's his administration. I'm sure they had his direction or his leadership's direction. We're pleased with the progress that they're making, but some of the things that hopefully we will be able to point out will be important steps to be incorporated in their thought process moving forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.